Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us here tonight for our third annual UCAIR Summit presented by Merit Medical. As you can see by the capacity crowd here tonight, collectively we're building momentum and pushing the UCAIR mission forward. I would like to start first by thanking Governor Gary Herbert and Lieutenant Governor Cox for being with us tonight. We will hear from both of them a little later in the program. In addition, I'd like to acknowledge the elected officials who are here tonight, many of whom are part of the Bipartisan Clean Air Caucus. I appreciate their taking time out of their busy session to attend tonight's dinner. Will you help me in giving Lieutenant Governor and elected officials a round of applause? It's truly been an honor to serve as the chair of the UCAIR Board of Directors, in large part because of the amazing board members that I have the privilege of working with. If I could please have all the board members please stand and be recognized. Thank you. And on behalf of the Board of Directors, I'd like to especially thank our presenting sponsor, Merit Medical, and Fred Lampropoulos for supporting UCAIR. Fred couldn't be here tonight, but he's been with us from the beginning, and he continues to be a solid advocate for improving our air quality. At our summit last year, our executive director, former Salt Lake Mayor Ted Wilson, announced his retirement, and Governor Gary Herbert elected 2nd of February as Groundhog Day and also Ted Wilson Day, so hopefully we all celebrated Ted on Groundhog Day. While we're on the topic of transition, I'd also like to recognize another UCAIR leader, Gwen Springmeyer, who many of us know served as our interim director, and she recently announced her retirement earlier this year. So on behalf of the board and all of us here tonight, I want to express to Gwen our sincerest thanks for the detailed and sustained efforts that she maintained throughout the last year as we searched for a new executive director. And Gwen, we know that you'll continue to make a difference in our community. Thank you so much for your dedicated service to UCAIR. As we expressed last year, filling Ted's shoes wasn't going to prove to be an easy task. Ted, as you know, is a legend in Utah, so finding someone at that level, let alone, we knew as a board, would be quite challenging. We needed to find someone with the same ability to navigate nonprofit management, policy and political issues, be a persuasive face to the media, work with a diverse group of constituents and stakeholders, have the ability to raise funds, work within budgets, while also working to drive the UCAIR mission. Addressing this challenge took our board much longer than we ever anticipated. It took us almost 9 months of searching, and we were introduced to a young man by the name of Tom Carter. In Tom's initial 5 months at the helm of UCAIR, we realized that the time it took us in the search was a great investment, and that that time investment led us to finding an individual who could lead UCAIR into the future. Tom indeed has all the assets and skills we need to fulfill the mission of UCAIR. Tom comes to us with broad experience, including having worked at the Exoro Group here in Salt Lake City, and management and leadership positions in professional sports, including Major League Baseball, and he was even elected city councilman for New Jersey. Tom has really dug in his first 5 months like a miner at Kennecott, and Tom brings, like Ted, a great sense of humor and a high degree of energy and leadership to the role. So please help me in welcoming to the stage our new executive director, Tom Carter.
Thank you, Steve. I'm pleased to be here with you today in my new role, an exciting role with UCAIR. I would like to echo Steve's sentiments and personally thank again Ted and Gwen. Gwen did an amazing job of keeping UCAIR running smoothly in the absence of a dedicated executive director. And while I certainly can't match the Ted Wilson persona, what I am going to try and do is at least keep up with the pace he set. I would also like to thank our presenting sponsor, Merit Medical, the Summit Committee, and the Board of Directors. While Steve thanks some of our sponsors, I would like to also thank this amazing group of organizations that have come together tonight to support UCAIR and our mission. I'm going to read these. Chevron, Dominion Energy, Rio Tinto Kennecott, Endeavor, Eccles Foundation, Gardner Companies, Silver Eagle Refining, University of Utah Hospitals and Clinics, Mark Miller Toyota, doTERRA, Intermountain Healthcare, Penna Powers, Holland and Hart, Geneva Rock, Rocky Mountain Power, Miller Family Foundation, Big West Oil, Maverick, Packsize, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Foundation, Fidelity Investments, and of course our many table sponsors. For a full list, please look at the program, and please join me in giving all these organizations a big round of applause. Additionally, I have a message from Bill Walton for everyone here. He told us early on that he would be the last one here, willing to sign autographs and pose for pictures. So enjoy the evening and figure out how you're going to take a selfie with a guy that's 6'11". Utah is fortunate to have its top leaders working to clear our air. UCAIR is an organization initiated by the governor himself. We are lucky enough to have him here with us this evening. When Governor Herbert saw that there was a real need, he knew the best way to solve this problem was with Utah Solutions, a true public-private partnership which gave birth to UCAIR. It was due to his vision that we are here tonight. It is my pleasure to invite to the stage a man who needs no introduction, the 17th governor of the great state of Utah, Gary Herbert.
Continue to eat. We can multitask here in Utah, so you can eat while I talk. I don't want to slow you down. We appreciate you taking your time to be here this evening. Thank you so very much. It's wonderful. I don't know where Bill Walton's at, but it's great to have Bill Walton, one of the greatest collegiate players of all time, one of the greatest NBA players of all time, and we're honored to have Bill here with us tonight. So welcome, Bill. I want to recognize somewhere here in the front row, right here, this guy right there. He's the Lieutenant Governor, Spencer Cox. Man of many talents. I hope you all paid attention that for 2 to 3 hours here a couple of weeks ago, he was, in fact, the governor. As you know, I was under the anesthetic and I had surgery going on, so I had to turn over the rights of governorship to the lieutenant governor. That's part of the protocol and the process we have here. And I thought he did an admirably good job, by the way, for those 2 hours that he was the acting governor. I did think while I'm there fighting for my life in surgery, he declares Abby Cox Day, for his wife trying to get some favors. That happened to be her birthday, which was probably appropriate. I was a little concerned, though, when I heard he was trying to move this capital city from Salt Lake City to Fairview in Sanpete County. But I did like the fact he's trying to get Wyoming to give us back that part that they stole, you know, up that little corner there where we could square up the state of Utah. But I was a little concerned when I heard he was trying to find a way to finance, you know, a cure for baldness out of our state budget. But again, great innovative ideas and doing some good things out there. So I appreciate Lieutenant Governor doing some great things. Let me just mention a couple of things very briefly. One, as you all know with the new numbers that have come out, if you've heard about the surplus monies that we had announced today with the legislature, our economy is doing very well. Our state is doing very well in so many different ways. If we're not at the top of the list, we're in the top 2 or 3 in about every measurable way. And our economy for the year 2015 and the end of 2016 is the most diverse, healthy economy in America. According to Department of Labor statistics, we've created more private sector jobs per capita than any state in America today. Now, that's the good news. Our economy is cooking. We don't have the numbers yet for 2017, but I'm here to predict that we're going to be right there at the top again. And that really is the goose laying the golden eggs. The expanding, growing economy provides us with great economy, job opportunities, and really is the foundation for a good quality of life, not only for us, but for our children and our grandchildren as we look into the future. Now, as we talk about the future, though, here are 2 things we've got to concentrate on. One is education. We've got to put more money into education. more resources, because we cannot continue to have long-term sustained economic growth if we don't have the labor force that has skills that line up with the demands of the marketplace in today's world global economy. We're doing that, and I think we're going to see the legislature do some really good things before the end of this session. But the second thing, which is what we're here about, is we also need to make sure we take care of the environment, particularly air quality, water quality, all those things that go to having a good home that we should be good stewards of. And I appreciate the work of so many of you here. Again, I appreciate that we're making progress. I hope we appreciate and at least know that we've made progress in the right direction. For example, there's no question that we, in fact, have better air today than we've ever had since we've ever measured our air quality. And so the trend is good. Where's Patrice Arendt? We have a number of legislators here, but Patrice, who's helped lead the charge here, she calls it the bipartisan, Environmental Quality Caucus. And again, she's helping bring Republicans, Democrats together and helping us to do some things. Industry stepped up, spending hundreds of millions on best available technology, saying, yes, it's going to be a challenge for us, but we need to do it as part of our being responsible corporate citizens. And so we appreciate many of you here represent companies who are stepping up and spending a lot of your money reinvesting into new technologies to help us, in fact, pollute less. Our refineries are stepping up. We're working with them to bring in Tier 3 fuels early. And if we get Tier 3 fuels, absolutely, that's the next best hurdle. Tier 3 fuels coupled with Tier 3 automobiles will be like taking 4 out of every 5 cars off the road. And right now, 50% of the gunk we see on gunky days comes from tailpipes. So a major opportunity for us to step forward and help clean up the environment here along the Wasatch Front. So again, a lot of good things happening. We appreciate the legislature coming together, private sector partnerships, and the results are that we, in fact, have reduced our pollution along the Wasatch Front over the last 10 years by 25%. That's in the face of 350,000 more people now living on the Wasatch Front. So I like what we've done. I like the effort. By the way, let me just mention one thing. I get a little bit frustrated. We have people say on our gunky days that we're as bad as L.A. And probably the spikes on some of those spike days are as bad as L.A. We love L.A. We all go to California. We visit Disneyland. We visit the beach. But they have 102 bad gunky days. We've had this past inversion season, which starts at the first part of December, goes to the middle of February. We've had a total of 6 days in that inversion season. We had an average of 18 when we started UCAIR. We're down now to averaging about 10. We've had 6 this year. It looks like with the weather forecast, that's probably what we'll have this year. So I like the trend. We ought to appreciate the good work of so many, but still, we have a long ways to go to get to where we want to be. Even one gunky day is one day too much. So again, I appreciate and applaud the efforts of so many with our Clean Air Partnership, our UCAIR program. Unprecedented partnerships, giving us unlimited possibilities of what we can accomplish as we work together. That's kind of the Utah way. I also want to share this, that again, it's been good leadership. Where's Ted Wilson? Ted, again, my good buddy Ted Wilson here, who's done so much for the environment, one of the great stewards, one of the great environmentalists, common sense approach, bring people together. Stand up, Ted. Let us recognize you. We appreciate the good work of Ted, and Tom's picking up the baton right where Ted left off. Members of the UCAIR board, which have been introduced, again, all working together in concert to say, what can we do collaboratively to improve the environmental issues here in Utah, particularly air quality. I appreciate the fact that the legislature has passed more bills. Again, thanks to Patrice and others that are here, we've passed more bills revolving around air quality in the last 5 years than we've done in the history of the state of Utah. So that's a trend that is good. We need to continue that on. We're doing some great things. It's a priority for our budget, and we'll continue to be a priority. Our budget, we've put more money in. Again, Alan Matheson, where's Alan? Alan running our department right over here. Stand up, Alan. Here's the man who really you need to get to know. Again, part of our UCAIR program is allowing people to come in. If you've got ideas, let's vet them. Some of the ideas are good. Some of the ideas may be a little squirrely, but an opportunity for anybody who has an idea to come and say, what about doing this? Have it vetted and see if we can't get Alan to implement the program. So we can, again, work together to clean up the air. And again, I appreciate the fact that we've given more money and more research so we get good data, good science, which will help us develop good policy. So with that, let me just conclude by saying thanks to everybody. Again, there's a lot of thanks to go around for everybody in this room. We are doing good things. We have a lot more yet to do. But again, I like the fact we're on the right road, going in the right direction. I like the trend. Let's pull it together. Let's cross over the finish line and have 0 gunky days in Utah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Herbert, for your support and leadership in the cause of moving air quality forward. You know, air quality is not just a job for me. It's personal. A year ago, in fact, last February exactly, I got sick. I got really sick. In fact, I got pneumonia. And when we look back during the course of my care and treatment, we realized that the day I got pneumonia was the worst air quality day of the year. And as my lungs deteriorated and as I struggled to recover, I was diagnosed again then with asthma. And that's changed my life, and not for the better. You see, now I have to do things differently. And it's not fun. It's not great. But truthfully, my story is not unique, which is why when we were putting together our campaign this year, we decided to tell true stories, real stories. Tell the story of real Utahns who struggle with their health related to air quality. Brad McFarland, he's a first responder who struggles with his asthma when the lid goes on, as we refer to the inversion. Dr. Liz Joy tells us the stories of people who come to her clinic and struggle, especially on inversion days, bad air quality days. Both Brad and Liz are here with us tonight, and we appreciate them allowing us to tell their stories to the general public. But it's safe to say that we all know someone whose health is affected by the bad air quality. But what can we do? What can we do? Well, I want to tell you a story. And Bill Walton's a big cyclist, we know this, and so I want to tell the story because I think he'll like it. And you can tell by my physique that I'm very indoorsy, so it really doesn't affect me. Thanks for laughing at that. I don't know. Everybody think I'm fat? A little hurtful, guys. I'm new. Anyway, in 2010, the British national cycling team, they were in a mess, right? No British cyclist had won the Tour de France. They were directionless. So they went and they hired a new coach. His name is David Brailsford. And he evaluated what was going on, and he realized that they couldn't do what some of the other teams were doing. Steroids, excuse me, just had to clear my throat. And he wanted to get their team to a place where they could win. So he introduced them to a principle called the aggregation of marginal gains. And the principle is this: if you make small 1% changes across the board in many different aspects and areas, then you can and aggregate those small changes together. Then you've made big changes. And he believed that if they made small 1% changes, then they'd be able to win the Tour de France in 5 years. By 2014. So he went to work, and he started with low-hanging fruit. They made changes in the way that they trained. 1% changes. They made 1% changes in their nutrition. They made 1% changes in their equipment. And then he dug a little deeper, and he made a 1% change. He said, you know, maybe we could use better soap. So they found better antibacterial soap. And what about our massages? Maybe they could be better. Instead of getting all new massage teams, they just said, let's use a better massage oil. And what about sleep? Should we completely revamp the way we're sleeping, or what about a small 1% change? So they went and found better pillows. And they would travel with them. So they wouldn't have to use crummy pillows when they were in hotels. We all know what that's like, right? And they were just these small incremental changes. They believed they could get to a place where they could win the Tour de France. One of their guys would win the Tour de France in 5 years. Well, the first British cyclist won the Tour de France in 2012. 3 years into their program, 2 years ahead of schedule. Later that summer, 60% of all cycling gold medals were won by the British. And the next year, a different British cyclist won the Tour de France. So, how does that relate? Why do I tell you this story? How does that relate to my asthma or Brad's asthma or the patients that Liz sees? It's very simple, right? 1% changes across the board. 1% behavioral changes. 1% changes related to what we do in our air quality, in our life, aggregated together, makes big change. If each of us decides tonight to do something different, each of us in this room, we will make significant changes across the board. And you've all heard these easy, simple, small changes. You've heard them from me, you've heard them from the governor, you've heard them from Ted, you've heard them in the media. So let's review them, right? Just a few. Ride transit, stop idling, reduce, eliminate cold starts, trip chain, carpool when it's time. Buy a car with the best smog rating you can afford. When it's time, buy a true smart home. In the winter, turn down your thermostat. Keep your home a little cooler. Just a side story. I went on TV in the middle of December, and I talked about turning down your thermostat, and I went out very strong for cuddling. I think that's a great way to stay warm. Thank you, Gwen. We had a great big laugh. It was a great situation. No kidding. 1 month later, after coming out strong for cuddling, I got engaged. So, thank you. I'm telling you, there are a number of good reasons to do the right thing. So we all know what we can do. But I'll tell you this, I am optimistic. I'm very optimistic. Look at yourselves. Look at this room. This room is filled past capacity. We are making a big difference. And it's not just your donations, which I am grateful for. Please don't think I am not very grateful for your donations. It's your effort. It's your desire to be a part of the solution, not sitting back and looking for perfect answers, for silver bullets. I'm sure you've heard me say this before, and I'll say it again. There are no perfect answers, but there are practical solutions. And in that vein of practical solutions, keeping that in mind, I want to tell you where UCAIR is today and where we are going. UCAIR has 3 foundations, what I call our pillars. The first one is education. We want each Utahn to know that they can take actions to be part of the solution. We partner with like-minded organizations, with industry, with businesses, with government, because we know that together we can have a larger collective impact. And then we provide grants. The money we raise tonight will go to our grants program that help turn innovative ideas into innovative solutions today, right now. When I took this job, I told the board I would go on a 100-day listening tour. And during those 100 days, I met with over 100 different organizations, businesses, like-minded advocacy groups, government entities, elected officials. And I asked them a simple question: what can UCAIR do for you? And very quickly, I came to understand better who UCAIR is, what UCAIR needs to do, and what our role can be. UCAIR stands at the pinnacle of the clean air conversation. Our role is to ensure that every Utah knows their role in making sure that Utah lives up to its potential as the best place to live, work, and play. Everyone is the problem, so everyone needs to be the solution. And I am pleased to report that we are making progress. For example, this fall, with the assistance of Chevron, Endeavor, and the Eccles Foundation, we launched the Show UCAIR Wood Stove Exchange. This program provides $1,000 vouchers to help exchange 80 wood stoves for clean-burning gas appliances with approved vendors like our friends at Maple Mountain Fireplaces. Upon completion, 3.77 tons, or about 7,500 pounds of emissions, will be reduced in just the first year alone. The average life of a gas stove is 40 years, so over the lifetime of that stove, that is a reduction of 150.8 tons, or almost 300,000 pounds. December's Free Fair Friday was an outstanding showing of UCAIR's partners and the public coming together to take a stand or a seat on public transit to support cleaning our air. And looking To the future in transportation, we are well on our way to Tier 3 fuel being a reality in Utah. Tier 3 gasoline is projected to reduce vehicle emissions by 10%. The investment of Chevron, Endeavor, Silver Eagle, and other refineries are volunteering making here in Utah to help clear our air is monumental. However, we all know the full benefit of Tier 3 won't be felt until full fleet turnover, which some believe could take 10 to 15 years. To ensure we are maximizing our best opportunities in mobile sources, we must encourage people to drive clean cars now, hybrids, electric, and the best smog-rated vehicle they can afford. When it comes to economic growth, we recognize the relationship between air quality and economics, and we are working closely with the Salt Lake Chamber, EDC Utah, the World Trade Center, GoEd, and other organizations to ensure our clean air efforts to address Utah's challenges are recognized and acknowledged. And this year, through our UCAIR Grants program, we have helped 10 organizations bring to reality their innovative products, services, and initiatives to improve the quality of our air. We are doing great work, but thanks. We are doing great work, but there is more to do. And so that is my request. That is my plea tonight. Enjoy this evening. Have fun. And when it's time to go home, whether you are driving or taking tracks, take a moment and think of one thing that you, your family, your company, your organization can do now. One change that you can make today. And if we all do that and aggregate it together, we are making big changes and winning a championship. Now is the time. We all hold within us great potential for excellence. So now is the time to stand a little taller, to rise a little higher, be a little better. Make a little extra effort with vigilance and hope, and we will succeed in this journey together. Thank you very much. All right, so there are some individuals and businesses and community partners who are making a big effort to improve our air quality, and we'd like to recognize them tonight. So I'd like to invite the governor and board chair Steve Sands back up to the stage to help present these awards. Yes, and then we'll go. Okay. All right, here we go. Awards time. Dr. Carrie Kelly is a recognized authority on air quality and has been an enthusiastic advocate in engaging everyone to play a part in bettering the air. As an assistant professor in chemical engineering and director of the program for air quality, health, and society at the University of Utah, Carrie has successfully spearheaded many education efforts. Have you played her Bad Air Day, Play It Like UCAIR video game? Or maybe made a Lego air quality sensor? And as if she wasn't busy enough, in all her spare time, Carrie served previously on the state's Air Quality Board and is currently chairing the state's Air Quality Policy Board. She has worked tirelessly to encourage Utahns in the classroom, in the community, and on local news to reduce or eliminate wood burning, choose a car with high smog rating, and ask themselves, what else can I do? For her expertise, efforts, and dedication of championing clean air, it is our pleasure to name Dr. Carrie Kelly as the 2018 UCAIR Clean Air Person of the Year.
So thanks to UCAIR and thanks to everybody. I'm really honored and I was actually really surprised. But I wanted to thank my excellent and supportive husband, Ross. I wanted to thank my wonderful collaborators in the state of Utah, including Rob Payne, who's here this evening, and basically everyone in the state. When you come to someone and have an idea to do research on air quality, everyone is so supportive, whether it's a corporate partner or whether it's a school district or the city or a nonprofit organization. people are great about trying to collaborate. But mostly, I want to thank the students. So as just an example, I have great students. I have people who volunteer to work in my group for no pay, because they want to learn about air quality and they want to do something about air quality. And as just an example, some of the students that were volunteering for me without pay came up with the idea to create a sensor for air quality made out of Legos. That sensor was so novel and innovative that I decided I should pay those students who are not being paid. And then the National Science Foundation asked us to present at the National Science Fair in Washington, D.C. this coming April, because the students were, again, so innovative. And that gives me a lot of hope for our air quality future, because our students are so smart and enthusiastic and engaged on air quality. So thank you so much.
Leading our effort to clear our air is an enormous task and one we cannot do alone. We are fortunate to have support of many high-caliber, respected businesses to call our partners in clearing the air, including Chevron. Chevron is a longtime partner, supporter, and has gone above and beyond over the years, lending its influence and resources to the remarkable success we've had. In 2017, as we worked to activate Utahns to reduce their emissions, Chevron and UCAIR took on the issue of wood burning as a public health risk with the Show UCAIR Wood Stove Exchange program. For the tremendous ongoing support of bettering our air through both lending its voice on air quality issues as well as donating tens of thousands of dollars to provide qualifying homeowners with vouchers to exchange wood-burning stoves for gas, we're privileged to name Chevron as the 2018 UCAIR Clean Air Business Partner of the Year. Please welcome Mitra Kashanchi, Salt Lake Refinery Manager of Chevron.
Good evening. No, public speaking is not my best skill, but when you're in a room that everybody is aligned and everybody knows what's the real issue and how we wanted to attack it, it makes it much easier. So I wanted to thank Tom and the entire UCAIR Board of Directors for this recognition. I appreciate that. I'll shake your hand one more time. I also would like to thank Governor Herbert and the legislators who are here tonight for their leadership and their continuous focus on our air quality. Chevron has been focusing on air emissions for a long time. Since 1990, Chevron has reduced the emissions from the refinery by about 90%. We know that we need to do more. We know that our efforts need to go beyond our fences, and that's why early 2017, Chevron voluntarily announced that we will produce and sell Tier 3 gasoline in Utah. But even Tier 3 is not enough. As Tom mentioned, we continue to focus on what are the other things that we can provide and what supports we can provide to continue to shed lights on the air quality issues. Point sources like refineries and manufacturing sites contribute about 13% to the overall air pollution. There is a third category of emissions that are called area sources. The second one is actually the vehicles. The area sources are anything beside these two, and that would be like wood stoves, gas cans, or water heaters. These sources contribute nearly 40% of our emissions in average winter day. And that's when UCAIR comes to this, that's when UCAIR is becoming so valuable in attacking the air quality emissions. UCAIR helps educate people and about little changes that will make a big difference on our air emissions. We all have a role to play in our air quality. I'm here to accept this award on behalf of my amazing team in the refinery. Some of my employees are here, and I wanted to thank them. This award represents more than 300 employees that come to work every day, and they do everything they can to reduce our emissions to help make cleaner fuels. We believe in what we do, in developing the energy that improves lives and powers the world. Our operations team safely and responsibly operate our plants 24/7. To ensure we meet our permit conditions, our engineers and maintenance and environmental teams design, maintain, and improve our equipment to reduce our footprint. So tonight, I'd like to close by thanking everyone who works with me at Chevron for the individual responsibility they take for improving our air, and this recognition belongs to Chevron Salt Lake Refinery employees. Thank you.
The Utah Department of Transportation's mission is to keep Utah moving. The beauty of this mission statement is that while simple, it has many levels. UDOT is recognized nationally as a leader, an innovator, and as an organization that is moving the transportation industry forward. This includes their contribution to the clean air equation. They partner closely with UTA, planning agencies, nonprofit entities, and communities all over Utah to plan and deliver a multimodal transportation system. Its TravelWise program encourages all of us to reduce the times we drive alone in our cars, suggesting instead we carpool, use transit, telework, trip chain, or walk and ride our bikes. The TravelWise program has also worked closely with other state agencies, most prominently DEQ, to plan and display air quality messages on UDOT's freeway message boards, reminding us to change behavior when it's most important to do so. They take their role in our community seriously, including an interest in the air we breathe, and for these and other reasons, we are very pleased to name UDOT as the 2018 UCAIR Clean Air Community Partner of the Year. Please welcome Carlos Braceras, Executive Director of UDOT.
Well, I want to thank everybody here tonight, the UCAIR board, for this distinction on behalf of this over 1,600 employees at the Utah Department of Transportation, over 12,000 private sector partners that work with us every day. I affectionately refer to them as the best damn DOT in the country, and I believe they are. You know, us Utahns, we think we're pretty special, and you are. As I have a chance to work around the country, what I see about Utah is our collective love for our state. I think it allows us to come together and work in partnerships like no other place. We could not be successful without our partners at the Utah Transit Authority, our partners at the planning associations that we work with around the state, our partners at the Department of Environmental Quality. It goes on and on, everyone that helps us be successful. It's kind of appropriate as I stand here today at this location, because this was the location for the opening ceremonies for the 2002 Winter Olympics. And as we were preparing for the 2002 Games, we started with a vision. And that vision was, what is that perfect Olympic day? And we started envisioning what that might be. And part of this was, how do we make transportation not the story? And that's where the TravelWise program was born. We started working with our private sector, with companies in the private sector, on how we could reduce trips, how we could change the travel times that people do, and that was where it was born. And when we came out of the Olympic Games, we did a lessons learned. What are those things we should take away from that experience and push forward? And the TravelWise program was that nugget, that one program that we said, we need to continue to do this. And I'm so happy to see how it's grown and how it's going to continue to make a difference. The future for Utah is incredibly bright. And our growth is really an opportunity. It's a challenge, but it's really an opportunity we have. And the way we manage this opportunity is going to really play a big role in how we grow and how our children get to experience this state. I love this place, and I want us all to work together to be able to envision what's that perfect Utah day in 5 years, in 10 years, and in 20 years. And I believe it can be a perfectly clear air day. And the Utah Department of Transportation stands ready to be your partner to help achieve that. Thank you so much for this honor.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Governor. And another big round of applause for our award winners, Carrie Kelly, Chevron, and UDOT. All right, now to the main event. To introduce our keynote speaker, as well as let you know why we chose him, I want to bring up a great friend, Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox. But first, let me tell you a few things about the Lieutenant Governor you may not know. Lieutenant Governor Cox wanted to be a professional basketball player as a kid until he realized there wasn't a spot for a short, slow player, although I believe he was a starter on the 1992 Fairview First Ward team. So there's always that. He plays bass in a local rock band with his brother. Their band name is The Upside. He's one of the biggest Utah jazz fans alive. He's addicted to sugar cookies and can tell you where to find the best one in the city. And he's one of the best Twitter follows there is. Please welcome to the stage the 8th Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Utah, Spencer Cox.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be here with you tonight. Now, I could not be more excited. As Tom mentioned, I'm a huge NBA fan. I did make up, though, I was short, but I made up for it by being exceptionally slow. So it didn't work out well for me, but it did work out well for our next guest. This is a dream come true for me. If you followed Bill Walton at all, you know he is a national treasure. I don't think there's any other way to describe him. But he did tell me something. He said, do not waste time on introductions, whatever you do. So I'm going to cut to the chase. Many of us were watching the BYU-Utah basketball game several months ago. I was sitting in my living room listening to Bill Walton do Bill Walton things, and then he started to riff on Utah and how amazing Utah was. And you could tell he wasn't making this up. He knew it firsthand. He had experienced Utah. I immediately tweeted out, I tweeted at our tourism department and the Governor's Office of Economic Development to ask them if they were paying Bill under the table. They assured me that they were not, that he really cared that much about Utah. And so we're very excited to hear Bill Walton here. I think we do have a video clip, though, of a couple minutes of that great call at the BYU-Utah game. So let's go ahead and roll that clip before we bring him up to the stage.
Utah, life elevated, bears ears, grand staircases to heaven, mountains, rivers, valleys, lakes, you name it. We got rivalries, we've got history, and we got basketball. Some people ask why. I ask why not. Oh, Zion National Park, the Virgin River, the tunnel that rides right through there. You go in your bike from the east, the Cougars are jumping from mesa to mesa. The Red Rock of Utah, spectacular state. From Provo in the south up to Ogden in the north. The freeways, the roads, the construction, the companies, the people. The youngest state in our country. What a grand celebration of life. Like climbing the grand staircase. As great as things are going here, the #1 public health concern is air quality here. And you can see it when you fly in. I mean, this is the way Los Angeles used to look until they made the rules and had to change everything.
Now, it turns out that Tom was watching the same game and immediately said, we need to see if we can get Bill Walton here. He graciously agreed. Ladies and gentlemen, the most loquacious, greatest basketball player ever. Please welcome to the stage the great Bill Walton. Wow. It doesn't get any better than this, Bill.
Utah, life elevated. Come on, here we go.
All right, we're about
Solar energy.
We're going to
The
interrupt
biggest
each other
no-brainer
all night
in-
long. This is happening, people.
Spend some time taking your tie off. Come on, man. Solar energy, the biggest no-brainer in the history of the world. More solar energy hits the Earth every day than is needed to power the entire world's requirements for a year. More solar energy hits the state of Texas every 30 days than has ever been extracted from the ground to generate energy. It's the biggest no-brainer ever. And so when we think about how 25 years ago today, in the great state of Utah, the NBA All-Star Game was played here.
This is true.
That was what was then called the Delta Center,
There were
right?
2 MVPs.
2 MVPs, joint MVPs, first time ever, representing the team spirit that we have here today. Even though our great Governor Gary has just threatened to sue the state of California over power generation.
Governor, would you like to defend yourself? Well, I got your back. I got your back.
We love you, Governor Gary, and we love you standing tall for your state. We also know that as we come together and we sit here in the Spence and what's Spence's
Cleone.
Cleone.
Eccles.
All right, I talked to Lisa beforehand. Spence
Okay.
couldn't make it tonight. But when I think of Utah and when I think of the incredible people that have helped build this state, and you're all here tonight, but the ones I know best are the Huntsman family, and it's sad to hear that John just passed away. I was doing a television interview back there, and I didn't know he had died yet, right? And so,
It was
never
awkward.
never so embarrassed in my life. But think of what Spence and the Huntsman family have done, right? They have built these magnificent empires, but now they spend all their time giving it away. And where did they give it away to? They give it away to schools. They give it away to hospitals. They give it away to children. And let's just think about what that means. Schools right here. The 5 great universities in this incredible state, the beehive state, the industriousness, the enthusiasm, the cornerstones of John Wooden's pyramid of success. But education is what's going to solve our problems, and the drive and the push forward to develop the mental acuity in conjunction with the emotional commitment that makes you the champion. And then the hospitals, the healthcare. Health is everything. I know. I have faced death. I have seen it. I know that everything springs from your health. Without health, without the clean air to breathe, we have nothing. I care, you care, we all care for UCAIR. I mean, I want to see that as a new cheer in all the public schools here.
Okay, Bill,
And then
now,
one last thing
listen,
here. I'm just getting
one last thing.
Please,
I don't believe one last
You haven't taken
thing.
your tie off
Okay,
yet. Please,
okay.
man, come on.
Look, they won't let me. It's mic'd up.
No, well, put it on your shirt. It's okay. So,
One last thing.
Oh, man.
Can you imagine calling
Okay.
a game with this guy? You don't get a
now
word in
you know
anyways.
what it's like for
I
Coach
do.
Wooden,
I
right?
do. Okay, one
Okay.
last thing.
the children, right? Please don't take away our children's day. And what's the first lesson we learn as children? And that is to clean up our mess. And that's what we have to do, because we have ruined our planet. We have made decisions, we have gone down a certain path. Years ago, we didn't know, but now we do know. And what are we going to tell our children? What are we going to tell them when they come to us with Neil Young's song, How Can You Run When We Know? So our challenge, and the biggest challenge that we'll ever face is, what happens when things go absolutely wrong? They're going wrong now. That, when we are able to take the worst and turn it into the best, then you know we have it. And that's what Utah is trying to do. But as I implore you, as Coach Wooden implored me all the time, try harder, do better, so that we do have that chance to survive. In sports, in life, in business, in family, in everything, it all rolls into one.
that ability to sustain, to keep it going. And that's what every company you see up and down the, you know, the Wasatch Front, the Silicon Slopes here, all these fantastic companies. You see what Vivint is doing with their smart homes, with their solar. You see what Chevron is doing, the reduced emissions and everything. That's all great, but just think of what it was like playing for Coach Wooden, right? We tried with everything we had, everything, to get him to acknowledge that we were doing something. We started at UCLA 48 years ago. The records still stand to this very day. And he never said a word of positive support or encouragement to any of us, right? The best we ever got was a little twinkle in his eye, right? Or maybe his lip curled up a little bit. But as soon as we finished one thing, it was, okay, that's good. Let's do it again now faster. Let's do it again now faster. So all the award winners, all the sponsors, everything. We got Alan from UCLA. We got Carlos from who's running the transportation. Everybody's doing all the energy and bringing it all in. Please, more. That's all I ever wanted in life, was more. And so as we keep going down the path of what we're trying to do here with Utah, Life Elevated, yes. What more could you ask for? And
that was one last thing. Are we still?
This is a continuation of that.
I know that. I know that.
I got an offensive rebound and I'm back in the game of life, right?
Well,
so
I'm boxing out next time.
Well, I've got to look, man. I'm a dirty player.
It's true.
I'm a dirty player. So,
Speaking of which, we're going to talk about Danny Ainge later.
Oh, I love Danny Ainge. That guy belongs in the Hall of Fame.
That's right.
But think of this for a moment here. In our lives, we always run into people who say to us, that'll never work. That's not true, because every time we're faced with that obstacle, people come up with new ideas, new innovations, new paths forward. Our goal, and we got everybody here tonight. We got the governor, we got you. I mean, it's unbelievable. Are you a lieutenant, or are you a corporal, or are you going to be a private when this is over tonight?
I'm a lieutenant
tonight. Okay, you're a lieutenant tonight. Okay.
We're working on it.
So, when you're going forward, that obstacle is going to be there, right? And the obstacle right now is, how do we clean up the air? Think of your surgeon. Think of my surgeons. Think of my foot surgeons who, yes, they were trying to fix what was the problem today, but they were always trying to get to the core of that problem. And people would tell them when they're working at me, they'd say, that'll never work, but it did work. I'm alive today. And then the other thing, I strongly recommend you read Kareem's second to the newest book, right? I don't know. He came out with 2 brand new books about himself within 4 months of each other, right? I mean, anyway, he talks in the first book, Coach Wooden and Me, he talks about race relations, he talks about politics, he talks about religion, all the things that nobody wants to talk about, but he just gets right in there, and he has a great section in there, in due time, and people who are held back, people who are forced to take a back seat, people who have been the subject of discrimination, of hatred, of all the negative things in your life. And I try it with everything I have in my life to associate with the positive and with the brilliant radiance of what we have here in Utah. And so that sense of in due time, just wait, we'll get there. Don't buy into that. Buy into the fact that we're going for it and we're going to go with everything we have, because what Tom, is it Tom or is it Thom?
It's
I don't
Tom.
know.
I got it. It's Tom.
Look, I am a phonetic learner, right? And so I get these guys, I broadcast these guys who have 6 names, right? I mean, come on, give me something short. I'm a lifelong stutterer. My life was defined by meteoric climbs to the top, just like the entire state of Utah. Brigham Young came down Immigration Canyon, right? He said, this is the place. I'm Bill.
Hey, Bill, Tom.
Yeah, Tom.
I'm taking Spencer's time.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
It's on.
So Brigham Young comes down and he says, this is the place, right? And nobody ever looked back. Nobody ever stopped. And so this remarkable chance to drive things forward where we are today. Because in the world today, with what we have and all these companies and universities, the 5 great ones here in this great state of Utah, the businessmen, the visionaries, the guys who are willing to step up in this room here tonight to make it understand that it's not, Tom was talking about incremental change. Incremental change is critical, yes, but you have to have that big vision, and don't ever let anybody stop you and tell you no. Don't let anybody tell you no who doesn't have the power to say yes. Think back in our own lives, growing up in the 50s and the 60s, with desegregation, Brown versus Board of Education, the Civil Rights sit-ins, Vietnam, the Voting Rights Act, ultimately the Clean Air Act, Watergate, all these things that brought people together to make things better. If we didn't come together the way the children right now, after the terrible shooting in Florida this past week, if those children don't come together, if we don't come together, we are missing this golden opportunity. Don't wait. It's like sitting in a basketball game and waiting for the ball to just fall in your lap. That's not the way you go. You come out here. Governor Gary, he didn't sit there and wait. No, Lowry, he didn't sit there and wait. You didn't sit there and wait. You got that band. You fire it up, man. You're like John Fogerty, right?
I will tell you, I know what it feels like to sit there and wait.
Okay. What was your name again?
By the way, he's
I'm
Bill
Bill
with 2 L's.
Yes.
Okay, now Bill,
Okay.
look, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with these.
Okay.
All right, I have a whole bunch of questions.
I'll tell you.
Now, John Wooden, right? You told me on the phone. You said you were
Right.
going to be John Wooden. You're
You're
going to be
John
Red
Wooden.
Auerbach. I'm going
Yeah.
to be Red Auerbach.
And I'm little
going to
Billy from
interrupt
San
you.
Diego.
This is Billy
with
from
his
San
red
Diego.
hair and his freckles
But
and his big nose and his
shows up.
goofy, nerdy-looking face.
Do you
and his
remember what
horrendous
John Wooden
speech
did
impediment.
every practice? He
Yes. He had his flashcards. And the clock.
That's
and
right.
Everything was run by the clock.
Okay,
What I love
everything.
about that
Right
clock,
here.
I've been up here for a while, that clock has not moved.
I know.
This is the coolest thing. This is the coolest thing ever.
I think it's broken.
So I told you how
it's
my
broken.
life...
It stopped at 8:15.
It's still
now
8:15. So hold on, man. So like Coach Wooden, you know, in my life, meteoric climbs to the top, catastrophic failure. Basketball and athletics were the easiest parts of my life, by far.
These were the
Piece of
questions
cake.
I was going to ask.
For me, the challenges were my orthopedic health. I've had 37 orthopedic operations on my body. I was born with bad feet. Structural congenital defects, club feet, if you will. I ground them into dust. Of the 37 orthopedic operations, 25 have been on my feet and ankles. And from the knee down, it's all fused. I can't feel a thing. If I fall off the stage tonight, please, Thom, come up here and just pop me back up. Slap me in the face and let's get going again. When I was 14, I'm down at the gym, and I am playing against some really old guys. They're in their 30s, right? And I am torching them. I'm having just a huge game, and they don't like it, so they take me down, and they tear up my knee. 1, 2, high, low, bam, I'm on the ground, and my leg is broken and bent, and they have to operate on it, and things were never the same again. Then when I was 21, I'm playing for UCLA, and I'm high in the air above the ball, above the basket. Hadn't lost a game in 5 years, and making the play on the ball up there. January 7th, 1974, not that I remember. In Pullman, not that I remember. The guy from the other team in a despicable act of violence and dirty play. He comes from the other side of the court, bam, takes my legs out from underneath me, flips me over, and I catapult over, and I land flat on my back on the innovation of the day, a tartan floor, and I break 2 bones in my spine. And I spent the next 11 days in the hospital. I got up, put a corset on, steel rods in it, flew across this great country, and we lost our 88-game winning streak. And we broke Coach Wooden's most oft-repeated admonition to us, which was, do your best. Your best is good enough. That's all I ask. Whatever it is you do, don't beat yourself. Don't cheat yourself. Don't shortchange yourself, because that's the worst kind of defeat you'll ever suffer. We thought he was crazy. We were teenagers, right? What did we know? We thought this was some walking antique, right? We didn't know what we had until we left UCLA. And so here was this guy who just was constantly teaching and everything, but when I had my injuries, when I had all my problems, that's when I really started learning about life and the ability to turn failure into success and the ability to learn how to speak. I'm a lifelong stutterer. I could not say a word. I could not say hello. I could not say thank you until I was 28. Learning how to speak is my greatest accomplishment and your worst nightmare. And so today...
And by yours, he means mine.
What's your name again? So today I'm on Bill Walton 17.0. So when I hear all these people tell, and when you look like this, you get nothing but no, you can't do that your entire life, right? And so, but today, things have never been better. I'm all better from my spine surgery. My spine surgery was February 8th, 2009, 9 years and 2 weeks ago. And so, not that I remember. And so, but I'm all better and I take no medication. I have zero pain. I just go full speed ahead. I've never been busier. I've never been happier.
Bill,
I've
at
been
one
this
time
healthy
you
since I
said
was
you
13.
thought you would never be pain-free.
Right.
And
I
you
spent my entire adult life. I spent half my adult life in the hospital.
You talked about laying on the floor saying, I may never get up again.
Right. No, so my spine failed. So I lived in this world built for preschool children, right? And here I am. I'm flying around on 200 nights a year, 200 nights a year on the road. That means 280, 290 days a year on the road. 600,000 air miles, domestic air miles every single year. Just constantly on the go, full speed. And then because of the bad foundation, think of the path forward in life. When you want to get to where you want to go, when we want to get to where we need to go, you got to have a plan. It can't just be hope. It can't just be luck, although never discount the power of luck, man. I stole John Wooden's lucky penny. Man, I've been living under that curse for 44 years, right? So anyway, so the plan for the path forward. Have a dream, have a vision, what it is you want. Find a teacher, find a leader. The best way to find out how to get to where you want to go is to talk to somebody who's on their way back. Then join a team. Nobody makes it to the top alone. Immerse yourself in that incredibly positive culture that the leaders have created, Life Elevated Utah, and then build your foundation, because the strength of the team is the strength of the individual. And my foundation was always built around John Wooden. I had the greatest parents ever who had zero interest in sports. I never shot a basket with my dad, right? Never.
Your mom was a librarian.
My mom was a librarian. I had the greatest parents ever. And then I was blessed that my very first coach was absolutely just a saint of a human being. He was a volunteer at our elementary school for 59 years. Never took a penny. When he died a couple years ago,
Worked for the fire department.
After 59 years, he was the fireman, right? 59 years. When he died, I can't tell you, he was the richest guy I've ever known, even though he was a volunteer his whole life. But I can't tell you today that he knew anything about sports, but he knew life. And that's what was important to us. He made it fun. We couldn't wait to get there. And then I had, as you folks had Hot Rod Hundley as your broadcaster, the voice in all your ears growing up, right? And how excited, how fun Hot Rod made it all the time. Hot Rod, he learned that from Chick Hearn, because Chick Hearn was the Laker broadcaster and Hot Rod was Chick's partner at the very beginning, and Hot Rod played for the Lakers. And anybody who's ever been touched by Chick Hearn has just been absolutely never the same person again. And then I had John Wooden, who I was his easiest recruit. I became his worst nightmare, and I drove the poor guy to an early grave at 99. And what I love about this clock, it never moves.
It never
man.
moves.
This is the
It
coolest
really
thing
doesn't.
ever.
This is like the fifth circle of hell.
Oh, man. This is heaven for me, man.
It's heaven for me, too.
Before we, look, I'm going to be the last guy to leave this room tonight, okay?
You will.
He is going to drag me off this stage. He's going to throw me off this stage. He's going to be like the guys in the Grateful Dead who say, Bill, you got to go home
Wait,
now,
did
right?
you already quote Neil Young?
Absolutely.
Did he
Yes,
quote Neil
I
Young
did
earlier?
quote, yes.
He did. See, and I put money on Jerry Garcia first. I lost.
Well, they're all the same person. Don't change that clock, please, man. I was having... So let's talk leadership here. So I have been so blessed in my life to have been impacted by these phenomenal leaders and what I've been able to learn from them. And let's just talk real quick about the elements of leadership that we're all responsible for. First one, illuminate the path forward. Show everybody where we're going to go and how we're going to get there. Then pull the team together. Then define the terms of the conflict. This is who we are, and this is how this game is going to be played. And then do what others can't and won't do. And then lead the relentless offensive attack. Hit first. And I saw Sean, the Attorney General, who went to UCLA, I believe. Is that true, Sean? Where's Sean over here?
think Sean had to leave
Sean,
early.
quitter. Anyway, front runner. Anyway, and then understand, accept, and embrace that risk, failure, doubt, hesitation, uncertainty, loss, complete disaster is all part of it. That happens every single moment, every encounter in our life. And if you're just thinking about hanging on, it's not gonna work. You know, life is about the future. We learn from yesterday, we dream about the future, but it's what we do today. And that sense of having it all come together, and then ultimately, the obligation of the leader to say no when no is appropriate. Because when the leader can say no and the team still buys in, then you know you got something. When you look like this, you get no your entire life, right? And so here it was. I become a leader for the first time in my life when our children start being born. We have 4 children, 8 grandchildren, 8 3/4 grandchildren. I wish I was like John Huntsman, God rest his soul, 56 grandchildren. Oh my God, I'm so jealous. But we have more grandchildren coming with every phone call. We're still very lucky. And so, but our children, when they became of age, when they were growing up, they're 8, 10, 12, whatever. Today, they're 42, 40, 38, and 36. And I couldn't be prouder of them, couldn't be happier. I'm the luckiest dad in the world. But back then, in those days, I was the leader. I had to say no. And they would look at me and they'd say, Dad, we hate you, Dad. You're the worst dad in the history of the world, Dad. All you ever do, Dad, is say no. We hate you so much, Dad, because you're the worst dad ever. You only say no, Dad. We hate you so much, we're going to go to Notre Dame, Dad. I would look at him and say, hey, look, I'd love to say yes. Everybody wants to say yes. Everybody wants to live in the culture of yes, but the culture of yes is built on the foundation of no. And so if you want me to say yes, you got to start asking me the right questions. Like, hey, Dad, can I go to bed now? Dad, can I turn off the TV? Yes. Dad, can I improve my diet? Can I open a new book, Dad? Dad, can I go to work for Vivint in solar energy? Dad, can I do the dishes? Dad, can I go down to help Chevron down there? Can I come and work with Alan and Scott in transportation and environmental qualities? Can I come and help in Utah and work and save the public lands? Yes, 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 I'll do all that, yes, yes, all the time. But it's the questions that we ask, and it's the willingness to have that open mind to come together.
Can I say no and ask a question?
You can do whatever you want.
We're going to ask a question here.
Just put the clock back to 8:15. That's all.
I have a question about team building, okay?
Right.
You've talked about team building. This is a private-public partnership. We're trying to build
Which is what it's all about.
That's right.
Because policy is everything.
Policy is everything.
Policy is everything.
You talk about team building. Red Auerbach, best team builder
I was part
ever.
of 3 of the greatest teams ever, and that doesn't count my high school or elementary school
Now, in
teams.
Utah, in the 80s, you had to choose. We were all Jazz fans, but you also had to choose whether you were a Lakers fan or a Celtics fan.
Why do you have to choose? Look, I don't live in this binary decision-making
I know you
world,
don't.
Right? Where it's
never
yes
have.
or no.
Like,
for me, it's
should I answer a question? Should I not
it's-
answer a question?
No, for me, it's yes, hopefully, maybe,
well,
right?
Some of us chose the 86 Celtics.
You guys grew up in this world that everything was ESPN with best, worst.
This was before ESPN.
No, man, 80s, ESPN started in 79.
We only had 3 channels in my house.
I was there, okay. We didn't have a TV. Best thing that ever happened
But
to
talk
me.
about team building. Casey
Okay, it's
Jones.
all about the team.
Casey Jones wasn't a great basketball player.
Yes, he was. He's in the Hall of Fame.
I know he's in the Hall of Fame, but people said he wasn't. Now you tell me why he was and how you build this team.
What are the 3 elements of the team? Thank you. Thank you. Please recycle those. So John Wooden had this pyramid of success, right? John Wooden was the first great basketball player. John Wooden got hurt. John Wooden had to stop. Even the great Karl Malone and John Stockton, everybody has to stop. Nobody believes it's going to be them, but we all have to stop, and we all have to change, we all have to transition. And that's why all the nomenclature and the lexicon from basketball is just so appropriate for everything in life. Basketball, first of all, is the most perfect game in the world. I hate waste and I hate waiting, right? Basketball, the only thing you have to wait for is to put the ball in the air and then who's got game, who can play, who's in shape, and who really wants this, right? Football, basically a halfway house between the army and prison. And then baseball, a bunch of out-of-shape guys scratching themselves, taking steroids, standing around, waiting for the game of life to come to them, right? But no, basketball. And so The team. John Wooden had this pyramid of success. This was part of his foundation. Let me run through that real quick.
By the way, this is going exactly how I thought it was going to go. This is how we scripted it.
I've never had more fun,
Look,
man. Put
he
the
has a
clock
nickname.
back,
His
man.
nickname is Solar.
Solar.
What's my nickname?
Well,
I thought it was Cole, but
Cole,
but
well,
yeah,
look,
no.
man, I don't,
No, I want to hear the pyramid.
I don't want to badmouth the sponsors,
No.
right? Look, this is the team. We are all in this together, okay? If we don't see it, that's where our country is falling apart. There's no shared responsibility. There's no sense that, okay, this is my neighbor, my happiness is based on them. That's what John Wooden taught us.
And it's not binary.
It's not binary, no. And that, you know, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be successful because how good you are, And that sense of, this is all about me. And, you know, I don't understand where the concept of public service has gone into the personal self-enrichment, which is what I see out there right now and what's going on over there. Because, believe me, if the Pilgrims had landed over here, you know, you get to Colorado and it would basically stop. And there's everything over there. But the team, right? That's John Wooden. Okay.
Pyramid.
Pyramid.
Team.
Pyramid. 15 words that he thought were important. Values, personal attributes, industriousness, enthusiasm, friendship, loyalty, cooperation, intentness, initiative, alertness, self-control.
He can do this all night.
Physical fitness, skill development, commitment to the team, poise, confidence, competitive greatness, flanked by the two external words, faith and patience. Then, quickly into his 7-point creed, which his dad, Joshua, gave to him. Make each day your masterpiece. Drink deeply from all sources of knowledge. Make friendship a fine art. Prepare for the tough times sure to come. And then 3 more that I can't remember, but I have zero memory. And then the 2 sets of 3 that he encouraged us to live by. He never told us what we had to do. He made it a choice for us. He lived by everything he talked about. He was better than perfect in everything that he did. I let him down. His 2 sets of 3s. Don't lie. Don't cheat. Don't steal. Don't whine, don't complain, don't make excuses. And then the endless maxims, which we thought were the dumbest things. We thought the whole thing was ridiculous, right? We called him the walking antique. But he'd be out there barking around the whole time, you know. Be quick, but don't hurry. Whatever the heck that means. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Happiness begins when selfishness ends. Never mistake activity for achievement. The worst things you could do for the ones you love are the things they could and should do for themselves. When everybody thinks alike, nobody thinks. It's okay to disagree, just don't be disagreeable. And then the one that he wrote for me on the day I graduated, June 1974, 44 years ago. To Bill Walton, it's the things you learn after you know it all that count. John Wooden. And then his go-to mantra, which is perfect for Utah, this incredible state of 3.2 million, most of it focused right here, so much like the other states in our great Conference of Champions, which 6 states represent the 4th largest economy in the world. Number 4, if you take away the 6 and leave the other 44 by themselves, it would be, in order, the EU with 28 countries. It would be those 44 countries, states, not counting us in the Conference of Champions, then China, and then these 6 states, and that incredible power that we have. But Coach Wooden, he always had this fallback mantra. Basketball is just like life. It's not a game of size and strength. It's a game of skill, timing, and position. It's not how big you are. It's how big you play. It's not how high you jump. It's where you are and when you jump. Now, I'm always scratching my head. That's why I'm bald. And so, because I'm like, this makes no sense, Wooden, because I always wanted to know from him why. Why I had to cut my hair. Why I had to shave. Why I had to wear the clothes he wanted me to wear. Why Nixon was president. Why we were in Vietnam. And why can't the cheerleaders be in my hotel room on the road trips, right? And so, whenever I said that, you know, he would look at me. He would look at me and he would say, you know, Bill, it's all fine and good that you think that way, but I'm the coach here. And while we've enjoyed having you, we're going to miss you. Now, I had a 43-year relationship with this teacher. And I've had a lot of great teachers, and he's right there at the top. But 3 years as a high school player, being recruited, 4 years as his player, when he certainly was not your friend. Because the coach, the leader, they're not your friend. Their job is to make you better at what you do and get us to where we want to go, to where they want to take us. And then the 36 years, which were by far the most interesting, when he would open up and talk about himself, because he was the most selfless, humble, caring, loving, giving person ever on earth, right? And so we did 1,000 events together after I learned how to talk, right? And I would drive him crazy. I mean, the two biggest problems that I ever caused him was when I got arrested at a peace rally and he had to drive me home from the jailhouse. Oh my God, he was so livid that day. And then one time we're doing a show like this on stage, Staples Center, 25,000 people, right? Everybody there. And I gave out his home number. And oh my God, he was livid. Right, he never had a cell phone. So anyway.
I think I got your number, but I don't think I gave you mine.
619-890-9085. Bill.Walton@BillWalton.com. If I don't get back to you in 24 hours, just send it again the next day. Say, second request, I thought you were cool. And so, anyway, so we're at this event. It's a big event. And there's Q&A at the end. We go on for hours and just going wild back and forth. And finally, we go to the Q&A, and this real young person, just like Abby right here in the front row, right, who could not have possibly been there. She was just too young, right? So she's sitting there on the little notepad writing it all down, and Coach Wooden's looking around and all serious, and same with me, right? Just like tonight. And finally, it's her turn to ask the question. She goes, Coach Wooden, and he goes, yes, young lady. Says, were you really going to kick Bill Walton off the team because he wasn't going to cut his hair or shave? And Coach sat up extra straight in his chair, looked at me, looked back at her, looked around the whole room, looked at me again, leans forward and he says, the only thing that matters is that Bill thought I was going to kick him off the team, right? And I did, and there was nothing more important. Just like there's nothing more important in our clean air, which is the foundation of who and what we are.
See how we brought that back
the
together?
inability
That's amazing.
to breathe, the inability to drink clean water, sustainability, keep it all going. And that's why the team. Now, the nicest thing that anybody ever said about me as a basketball player, ever, was that I helped my teammates play better. And that's what you folks do. You help Utahns live a better life, right? And nobody, I salute you, I applaud you. I just want more, but I'm super greedy.
Okay,
I got the transition, right? I got the transition.
all right,
See,
here comes the
transition, rebound, turnaround, crossover, timeout, momentum, all the lexicon.
You promised me a speed round.
I got it.
Okay.
We're a long way from the speed round, man. We're barely through the first quarter, man. I'm barely through my introductory remarks. And so I'm not going anywhere. So anyway, they said I help my teammates play better, which is what you folks do. Maurice Lucas, the greatest teammate I ever had, he made me the best player I ever was. He was so important in my life that we named our next born son, Luke Walton, after Big Luke, Maurice Lucas. And on the day that little Luke was born, March 28th, 1980, 38 years ago, Big Luke, he came to our house bearing gifts. It was a big picture of himself in full rage, action, and glory, going for it like nobody else ever could. And he inscribed on this picture to little Luke, to make it in this world, you got to be tough, Big Luke. And that picture hung over little Luke's bed for 18 years before he went down to Tucson to play in the Conference of Champions for Lute Olson, the 21st century version of John Wooden. But what made Maurice Lucas so special? I mean, this guy was so tough and so fierce and so willing to step to the front and take the responsibility. So I live by the mantra, and I live by the clock. And that clock is wrong. And everything in my life is based on the schedule and the time. If you can't be on time, be early. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Always gearing up, getting ready for that ball in the air to to determine the fate of the known world one more time, when that red light comes on, when that phone rings, when you got that moment to negotiate with California as to how we're going to solve these problems, as opposed to wasting time and money with litigation and everything. Let's come together and figure it out and say, you and me, our indigenous brothers here, everybody, Utah, Wyoming up there, taxing wind and subsidizing coal. I don't get this, right? The policies we need. What we value will flourish. Please read the Geography of Genius by Eric Weiner, a brilliant book. Please read Play Bigger by Christopher Lochhead. Please read The Wildness Within by Kenneth Brower, David Brower's son, and all the fights and the battles and getting it all done. So Maurice Lucas, I'm in the locker, right? And I'm just in the zone. I am just so fired up, and all the calculations and decision makings, because you got to figure it out before it happens, because it happens so fast, right? And so all of a sudden, bam, an elbow in my rib cage, and I look up, I'm just bounced out of my zone, and I look over, and it's Maurice Lucas sitting right next to me in my locker. And he says, hey, Billy, what do we got to do to win this game tonight? I said, Maurice, look at the clock. There's 5 minutes to go before tip-off, and you're asking me, what do we got to do? We've been spending 3 or 4 days on new plays, film, strategy, matchups. He puts his hand over my mouth, says, shut up, Billy. He quit spitting and stuttering all over everything. He said, I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care about film, strategy, matchups, people. I care about people. Look around this room right now, Billy, and you tell me who you think has to do something special for us to win this game tonight. So I'd look around, and I'd identify a couple little guards, a couple little 6-footers, right, who had to do something more than just inbound the ball, feed the post, and play some token defense on the perimeter, right? Karl Malone said it best. In this game, men are made in the paint. Karl Malone, the Mayo Man. And how cool was it when he met his wife, Kay? She was in town touring as Miss Idaho, and there was a big parade welcoming Karl Malone into Utah, right? And so all of a sudden, she's on the sideline, and she's looking, what are they honoring this guy for? Oh, man, they call him the Mayo Man. And so she's like thinking it's really cool that, hey, Utah's got a black Mayo Man. That's really cool. We have a parade for him, right? They're happily married ever since, right?
The rest of the story was it was the 24th of July parade, which is Karl Malone's birthday. He thought the parade was for him.
Okay. And so Maurice Lucas, he looks at me as he stands up, and he looks down, surveys the whole room after I've identified the little guard. He looks down at me and he says, I'll take care of this. And then he walks across the room, statuesque, Raven-esque, an Adonis of the night, huge, powerful, muscular figure. And he comes over and he sits close as can be in the guard's locker, puts his arm on his shoulder.
May not end well.
All warm and fuzzy, you know, Bob Knight, Bob Huggins, Frank Martin down at South Carolina. He says, hey man, I was just talking to Billy over there. And Billy thinks that if you play really well, we're gonna win this game tonight. And the guy goes, no problem, Luke. I'll do my best. And then Big Luke, he changes from the warm and fuzzy as he takes that hand from the guy's shoulder and puts it on the back of his neck and jerks the guy up off the ground, pulls him in face to face, looks right into his soul, deep through his eyes, and says, your best is not good enough. If you don't play the game of your life tonight, I'm going to kill you on the spot. And he threw the guy down. The guy played as if his life depended on it. And it did. There was no team member like Maurice Lucas. Larry was a better player. Larry was the best player I ever played against. Played with. Kareem was the best player I ever played against, and not even close.
And the best player ever, Bill Russell.
He's my favorite player.
That's what I thought.
I've got 7 players at the top of the mountain for me, and in chronological order. Because how many children do you have?
4.
That's not enough. We're in Utah, man.
Yeah.
So
Please
talk to Abby.
Yeah.
So
it's a little late for that.
it is Abby, right?
Yeah, it is
She's
Abby.
your wife or
She
your
is.
daughter?
Yeah, and we just have one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't rank and rate or compare your children, right? No, man, you love
no,
them all.
of course
okay,
not.
so
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
7 guys, and
Okay.
I'm about to. I'd like to add, and I will add LeBron, and I love Steph, and I love Kevin Durant. Yeah. But they're still playing, so they got to finish it out first. But chronologically, Bill Russell, my favorite player ever. Wilt, Oscar, Kareem, Larry, Magic, and Michael, and that sense of excellence. So I had the privilege, and I know that people in Utah think that Game 7 push by Michael Jordan, that had nothing to do with it, please.
Hey, can you talk about uh-oh for just a second?
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
I'm just, so I saw the play happen, right? You know, Houston's the world champion, and, you know, they're going for another one. But Utah's the better team. And Utah was on the road and hanging on and hanging on and hanging on. And you got to, when you're going for that, man, you got to put them away. And you got to come. And that was Kareem, and that was Larry, and that was Michael, and Akeem. You know, he had lost it, and Clyde was losing it at the same time. And the Jazz were coming up, man. And so I'm sitting right there with Greg and Snapper Jones, and they inbound the ball, and the Rocket defense just like falls down, right? And I said, uh-oh.
Karl Malone did set a screen that
well,
was
please.
epic.
I
but
mean, everybody sets a screen.
uh-oh,
Come on.
which is when
And
you
then
became
John
the villain
Stockton-
in Utah.
Look,
For just a minute.
Look,
Now you're our mascot. You're our hero.
nothing is better. This game tomorrow night, UCLA coming up here. Those Utah fans are going to be yelling and screaming. We love that.
Who you got tomorrow?
I think that UCLA is a better team, but I think that Utah wins.
That's what I like to hear.
I think that, you know, but it's not what I think. It's what's going to happen on the court. And that's what this room is about. And that's the people who, to be the Maurice Lucas, to stand up and say, I'll take care of this. I know we have problems, and we're going to make it better. I had the privilege of being the broadcaster. There is no further stretch of the imagination that little Billy would be the broadcaster, right? I mean, here I am. I'm lying in the hospital bed on March 15th, 1990, 28 years ago, and I'm having my 30th operation. The first 29 were a piece of cake. They were all about getting back in the game and starting to go again, right? But this 30th one, they were going to take a big electric saw and cut all the ends of the bone off in my foot and ankle, and then push this big, massive, bleeding ball of bone together, put it at a right angle, and then come in, put two big plates on either side, and come around with a power drill and bolt it all together, just so I could come to the I care, you care, we all care for UCAIR, right? event here on February 21st, 2018, right? And I'm lying there, and I know for the first time that it's over, and I'll never run again. Because with the fused ankle, there's just no motion. And no matter what, I mean, it's not a matter of will. It's not a matter of hope. It's not a matter of trying harder. At some point, you can't do that physically anymore, so that you have to make that transition. And so I'm lying there, and it's just so sad, and things are just spiraling terribly out of control. And so through the tears and the loss and the desperation, the anxiety, I tell myself, you know what? I think I got a plan. And it was at that moment when this just lightning bolt, flash of inspiration seared across the smoking crater that's my mind. And I said, yeah, I got it. I'm 6'11", I've got red hair, freckles, a big nose, a goofy, nerdy-looking face. I can't talk, and I'm a deadhead, having been to now more than 889 concerts. And
That was one of my questions.
Right, and it's not enough. Yeah. And so, but I'll be out on tour again this summer when they're in Mexico right now, heading to Florida and then New Orleans. And so I said, well, wow, with all those qualifications, red hair, can't talk, deadhead, television is the only career possibility for me to pursue. And so they looked at me and they said, are you kidding, Walton? Get out of here. That'll never work. The same way that all these innovators here in Utah who were coming up with all these new ideas, all these carbon capture things we're doing, all the innovations that were coming to generate new electricity, all the things that we're doing to make the water cleaner, everything that's going on right now, and other people are saying, no, in due time, that'll never work. That's what they told me, right? Get out of here, don't ever come back. But I chased that dream. I finally got my chance. Made no difference to me, although it did to my wife and children, that my first broadcast was on the radio from Bakersfield on Christmas Day for no pay, and the team and the entire league were folding the next day. But yeah, I was broadcasting, right? And so, not too long after that, I got a real chance, the chance that we've all had in our lives. There's just way too much nonsensical rhetoric going around about how it's about individual bootstrapping and rugged individualism. It's about the team. And every single person here, every person who's ever made it has been helped by other people. And the worst thing I see in life is when somebody does make it, and the first thing they do is they buy their mansion on the hill, and they put a big electrified fence around it and said, I got mine, get out of here, I don't care about you. And that's not the way our world, our country is or should be, because we are the result. And so, and that's why I love Utah. That's why I love the community spirit. That's why I love the Utah Jazz. That's why I love what they're doing right now with Quinn Snyder and Ricky Rubio and Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert and all these different people, because it doesn't matter where you're from. It's who you're from. And that ability of the people in Utah to bring up and nurture their own. And we're going to see that tomorrow night. And so here it was when my spine failed, February 24th, 2008. And I was on that ground and I could no longer move. And a week before that date, not that I remember, I had just been named one of the top 10 pundits in all of media. I had just been named one of the top 20 sports business representatives around the entire globe, and I had just been named one of the top 50 sportscasters of all time. So if I can do this, if you can do what you're doing sitting here, what's to keep all of you from making sure that we have the clean air, the clean jobs, and the future that we all so desperately want? And so as I was thinking, about John Wooden and all those different things, because he kept saying it's not a game of size and strength. And because what he was really trying to get at is, what's going to happen if your game is just being bigger and stronger than the other guys? What are you going to do when Kareem shows up? What are you going to do when Shaq shows up? What are you going to do when Yao Ming shows up, right? And so that's why when he kept saying it's not a game of size and strength, I called him on it. I said, how can you say that with a straight face? It's not a game of size and strength. Come on. Kareem has all the records. Shaq has all the money. And Wilt has 20,000 girlfriends. You tell me what's up with that. And so Coach Wooden, he immediately would say, you're the slowest learner I've ever had. Don't you realize it's not about stuff? It's not about material accumulation and physical gratification. It's about becoming the champion in everything you do. And that requires you training the mind, but also requires you to subjugate your ego. The ego is a great thing because it does make us better. But at some point, you have to realize that the greater goals of what's happening in Utah, greater goals of what's happening in California, greater goals of what's happening in the United States and in the world have to take precedent over our own individual selfishness. And so that path that we talked about earlier, leader, vision, team, culture, foundation, there's two critical elements that I left out of that. And those are the elements of what makes things work. We know what makes things fail, and that is lack of honor, selfishness, greed that leads to anger, hatred, and ultimately violence, right? The total failure and collapse of humanity. What makes things work is what Utah is known for best. What the Utah Jazz, then, now, and in the future, what the state of Utah, all these incredible places, Flaming Gorge, Dinosaur, Arches, Colorado River, Canyonlands, Needles Overlook, Bridges, Lake Powell, all these phenomenal places, Bryce, Zion, Escalante, Bears Ears, all these fantastic places, and that sense of sacrifice and discipline to make it all happen. And I had the privilege of working with somebody who sacrificed a ton. Kareem, all these guys I mentioned earlier, but I had the chance to be the broadcaster for Michael Jordan. And it was so special because he was the personification of excellence in everything on and off the court, with the exception of his Bobcats or Hornets, whatever they're called. And he promises me he's working on that. I still haven't seen it, right? So Michael, as a player, would just every game deliver and bring it, which is the challenge and standard for all of us, right? And then, but the broadcasters, we had to come up with the new storylines, the new ideas. So one day I'd walk in and I would always ask the questions to him before the game, and I'd say, so Michael, how does it feel that you single-handedly have proven that Copernicus, Galileo, Isaac Newton, and Albert Einstein didn't know what they were talking about, and physics and gravity do not exist? And he looked at me kind of puzzled, and I wasn't waiting around for his answer, right? Because I was on fire and ready to go. So I just quickly moved on. And I said, Michael,
First time I felt like Michael Jordan.
you are Michael Jordan. You're Spencer, right?
That's right.
Spencer.
That's right.
You're the,
Bill with 2 L's.
you're the lieutenant governor. Okay.
We have 5
Okay.
minutes, and I get 2 questions.
Okay, I'm going to go to overtime tonight.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so Michael, he says, I say to Michael, how do you do this? Every single game, Michael, you come out, and Michael, you're just an average-sized guy, little tiny, nondescript human being, right? You're not the biggest, you're not the strongest, you're not the fastest, and you don't jump the highest. But every single game, Michael, you come out here against the ultimate winners of the genetic lottery, Ewing, Olajuwon, Sampson, Robinson, Shaq, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, an endless line of guys. And every single game, Michael is coming out there and he is taking it right to them. And ultimately, he's coming down that lane and he's throwing it down in their face. And then he stands back and looks at them, says, what are you going to do about that? And there was nothing they could ever do. And so I'm asking Michael, ESPN, the company that I work for, they loop these shows of you doing this every single game. And I want to know how much time you spend on all these spectacular plays that we had the privilege of watching. And he looked at me with incredulity and he said, Bill, I don't spend a second on any of that. I spend every bit of my life on my foundation, on my physical fitness, on my footwork, on my skill level. But what I really spend my life on, Bill, is the dream of who I've got on my team and how we're going to get to where we want to go. And then that leads seamlessly into the changes in our life, right? I'm 65. I have been chasing it down for so long. I left home when I was 15 or 16 and just been on the go ever since. And as you get older, as things change, as it gets harder, the amount of commitment, the amount of understanding everything that you have to do and your concept of everything changes and expands. I used to think I knew what everything and commitment meant until my spine failed, until I couldn't move, until I couldn't lift my arms, until I couldn't lift my head, until I couldn't get off the ground. Everything since that point has changed, and my comprehension of everything is so much different today than it was 10 years ago. And then the next step is, I heard Thom talk about this earlier tonight. He talked about the incremental steps and how you move forward, right? That is your name, right? It's T-H-O-M, right? I mean, so the mantra is, you cannot finish what you don't start. And too often our young people, too often our people who are entrenched in power, they think that we're going to wait until everything is perfect before we take that step into the game. Don't believe that. Success in life is built up advantages over incremental steps of getting in the game and get going. And that's why when John Wooden was sitting there and just telling me all these different things and how much I blew it and how much I just absolutely left so much on the table, and I just wish back and think that, oh man, if I could only do that all over again. But that's not the way the game of life works. And as I'm sure you'll say tonight, if only, because I will go home tonight and say, oh man, I forgot that, I forgot this. That's always the way it works. So
I'll have a regret or two.
yeah, like agreeing to do this. What do you want to talk about?
Closing statement. I think we're about there. I wanted one quick Danny Ainge story. Because I know you've got a million.
Danny was the coolest dude ever. First of all, I got to say that we had a guy who's also from Utah, Fred Roberts,
You
right?
did, Fred Roberts,
Fred Roberts, the only guy in the
His
history of-
nephew is in the House of Representatives.
Fantastic, great. And what I love today is with what's going on, how everybody is coming into the political arena, all these scientists, all these doctors.
Would you ever run for office?
No,
Okay.
I just, no,
Are you sure? That's less convincing than Oprah.
Her speech was fantastic.
It was
It
fantastic.
just brought
And
tears
so
to
was
my
yours.
eyes. And I saw, just the other day, I was visiting a friend in the hospital. And her husband, I know Oprah and I know her husband Stedman, and Stedman, they're just both the greatest people, and I was
I'm not sure they're married, but let's keep going with it.
that doesn't matter. This is America. This is freedom.
No,
This
it's
is
great.
choice. Come on, man. And anyway, and I looked at Stedman and I said, and I just had tears in my eyes. I just said, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, the spirit. But so Fred Roberts, he has the distinction of being the only player in the history of basketball to have been traded first for an exhibition game, right? The Celtics wanted him from Utah. The Celtics didn't want to give up anybody. Utah was having trouble selling tickets.
We needed the money.
Larry Bird could sell tickets. And so they said, look, we'll give you Fred Roberts if you bring Larry out here and play an exhibition game. So he was traded for an exhibition game. And then later in his career, Fred was traded for an assistant coach somewhere. So, I mean, it's one thing if you're Dave Myers, right, from UCLA and you get traded for Kareem, right? But if you get traded for an exhibition game, oh my gosh. So, no, in my whole life in basketball, I mean, I had the best coaches. I played for 3 of the greatest teams ever. 6 of my coaches are in the Hall of Fame. Many more would be if these wretched legs had carried me to my dreams. But I just couldn't get to where I wanted to go, to where I needed to go. And so, but my coaches are different than the coaches today. My coaches, I mean, John Wooden, we never watched film. He never used the blackboard. We never had a play. He never called timeout. In 4 years, he mentioned the other team twice. We lost both games. Thanks a lot, Coach. But he was worried about us, the way that you and Governor Gary are worried about Utahns, and you're standing up for Utahns, and you're making us all proud, and you're fighting for what's right for Utah.
This is the best Danny Ainge story ever.
Right. So it all rolls into one. So, and all my coaches were like that, right? Now they spend so much time on the other team. Who cares about the other team? Just go out there and kill them. And it was like when you go on the road. I mean, winning at home, you're supposed to win at home, right? But when you go on the road and you can get it done, and those fans hate you, and those fans are just despise you, and they think that they're going to yell and break your psyche and break your concentration and get in here and make you crumble in their presence. That's what fires us up. Learn to love the pressure. Learn to love that excitement, that uncertainty where you walk out there and you don't know, but you know if you play great, you're going to win. And my goal was always, hey man, those people coming into this game tonight, they hate me. And I love that. At the end of the game, my job is to make them be our fans, right? And so that's what happened. And so we're at practice with the Celtics, right? And we got everybody on the teams in the Hall of Fame, and Red Auerbach and Danny Ainge, and I mean, phenomenal players top to bottom, just one of the really special teams ever. And Casey Jones, who was the most like John Wooden of any coach I ever played for on and off the court. And so the end of every morning practice before the evening's game, Casey Jones would call us all together and give us the last bit of instructions. The game starts at 7:30, be here by 6:15, and just be ready. And he would always then say, does anybody have anything to say? Does anybody know anything about the other team? And nobody ever said a word, with the exception of Danny, who always had something to say about the other team. And none of us ever cared because we were just better than everybody else, and it didn't matter what they did. It was what we did, right? And so, but Danny, who was watching tons of college basketball at the time, because when you're in the NBA, you don't have the time to watch college. And the NBA is such a higher level than college. Anyway, so Danny, this one day, Utah, at the Boston Garden. And Danny, when Coach KC says, anybody have anything to say? And Danny goes, yeah, Coach, I got something to say. And everybody turned to Danny. He said, come on, Danny, we got to get out of here. Let's go. Danny said, no, man, Utah, they got this new player. He's really, really good. Man, his name is Karl Malone, and he's got big hands and big, broad shoulders, and he's really good. He is so good that they call him the mailman because he delivers, right? Larry goes, mailman, are you kidding me? If he's the mailman, I'm Federal Express, because where I'm from, the post office closes at 5 o'clock. I deliver 24/7. Let's get going. Larry just walked off the court, went in the locker room, took a shower, went home, took a nap, came back, and went for 50 in Carl's face. Carl had no idea what hit him, right? Because Larry was one of those guys. Larry never got tired of throwing 50 in your face. You know, some guys get bored. Kareem, Kevin would get bored.
Yeah.
But Kareem and Michael and Larry.
But when Larry
Russell,
got bored, he played left-handed.
Right, he did that. He said he did that, and he said he was saving his right hand for the Lakers. Yeah.
Okay, I think our time is up
okay.
like 20 minutes ago.
No, man.
So
No way. Someone rotate that clock back, please. Can I have a closing statement?
Closing statement. Closing statement.
Okay.
I'd like that in the form of a question. Bill, do you have a closing statement for us?
Yes, I'd like to. Thank you for the overtime.
Let the record
I
show
love
that I got a
overtime.
question in tonight.
Yeah. How about a round of applause for Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox and his fantastic wife, Abby. Please, more children. And so, we are at a critical time. And we are always in the fight. And the fight is what makes it fun. The fight is what drives us. And my favorite player ever is Bill Russell. And for a lot of different reasons. And one of the reasons was he won all the time, but was really the way he played, which was to make the other people better. And that's what the world of public service is about. That's what my life is. I try to be. That was John Wooden, it was Chick Hearn, all these people in my life that I just love. And so Bill Russell's time in Boston was not a good time for him. I mean, he was there 13 years and won the championship 11 times. And when he retired, he didn't even tell them. He just left. Because Bill, when he got there, Boston was having trouble with race relations. As race relations are a problem still everywhere in all of our lives, and we have to look out and embrace and welcome and make everybody feel like we're involved, we're invested in this. But when Bill got to Boston, they wouldn't let him live where he wanted to live because of the color of his skin. And then when he did finally get a house, he was on the road winning the championship for the Celtics. And while he was on the road, and everybody knew he was on the road, some skinheads, they broke into his house and they spray painted the N-word all over this house, all over the walls. And then one of them defecated on his bed and left it there while Bill was winning the championship. And Bill came back and saw all this, and just he internalized so much, took it all. And then when it was time to go, he just left. And he didn't show up for his Hall of Fame induction. He didn't show up for his number retirement. He didn't say thank you or goodbye. He just left. And David Stern and Red Auerbach, when David took over on February 1st, 1984, the first call he made was to Bill Russell and said, Bill, we want to bring you back in. You are the NBA. You are our foundation. Now, please, let's work to make this better. And Boston has gotten a lot better, but it's not how far we've come. It's how far we still have to go. And that was Bill Russell's constant effort to make things better. That's what you guys do on a constant basis. And I salute and applaud you and I acknowledge you for doing that. And so Bill gets, things work out and Bill comes back in. And then it was not too long ago that Obama, when he was the president, Obama is in Boston being the president, right? Where you just go around and you give all these speeches and you pull it, all the leadership elements we talked about. And Obama was fantastic, and I encourage every one of you to read David Axelrod's book, Believer. I mean, incredible. It will just give you so much confidence that we are going to make it, because our spirits are too often broken as opposed to uplifted and brought together and healed. And so Obama is there in Boston being the president, and he's talking all day. He's got the teleprompter, he's giving all the speeches, and he's rallying everybody together. We can do this, let's make it happen. And then at the very end of the day, this huge crowd downtown Boston. And he goes off script, and he stops, and he says, I want to challenge the city of Boston here, because you've got a hero from the past who you have not treated right. Obama knows the story of Bill Russell's time in Boston. And he says, we've got to fix this, because here you have this great hero, this great force of nature who did so much to pull so many people together and was responsible for so many firsts in the world, and there's no statue, there's no acknowledgement, there's no thank you to Bill Russell. So I'm challenging you in the audience in Boston here the same way that I'm challenging Utah right now to do more for clean air and clean water and solar energy and renewables and all this stuff and move forward all the time. And Obama says, I'm challenging you folks in Boston right now to do what's right for Bill Russell. And then that was the end of the day. And standing in the crowd that day were the two Celtic owners, Dave Pagliuca and Wick Grossbeck, two guys who bought Bain Capital from Mitt Romney, the next senator here from Utah, right? And so they're standing there out there and they hear this emotional plea from Obama, and they own the Celtics. So they kind of elbowed each other, looked at each other and said, we'll take care of this. And so they built a statue for Bill. And they had this incredible ceremony. And the statue of Bill is not in front of the basketball arena. It's down in City Hall Plaza, right next to all the Revolutionary War heroes, the guys that stood up and risked everything, which was Bill Russell. And there's all these blocks, like John Wooden's Pyramid of Success around him. And Bill, he is there, and he's grumpy as can be, right? And nobody can be grumpy like Bill Russell. And so they have this big event, and everybody is there. And the only people who couldn't make it were dead, and the ones who weren't there, they sent videos, even from the grave, right? And so it was just this phenomenal ceremony. It lasted all day long, right? And so Bill's up there speaking, and it's finally his turn to speak. And he speaks for 2 hours without stopping, without notes, and just telling all the stories of the struggle and the fight and everything. And like everybody has to go to the bathroom and everybody has to leave, right? And Bill's daughter, Karen, she has to be the one that gets up and walks up to him at the podium. And Bill's deaf as can be, can't hear a thing. And so she's whispering in his ear while he's speaking, right? And you know, Daddy, the governor has another appointment. Daddy, everybody has to go to the bathroom. You got to wrap this up. And he's saying, what? And so finally he understands he's got to wrap it up, as I will here. Wait.
Like, if you did run for office, you would be the designated filibuster.
And so Bill gets very serious. And he starts talking about change. And he starts talking about progress. And he starts talking about the effort to make things better, which is all of our duty and responsibility and obligation. And Bill, at that point, tells his family's history. He says, if you don't believe in change, if you don't believe in progress, if you're not willing to accept the struggles and the battles that everybody's out there fighting, you really have no comprehension of what it is that we're trying to do and where we're trying to go. Because now I'm Bill Russell speaking at the podium in Boston. And he says, my grandfather was a slave in Louisiana. He picked cotton his whole life, never went to a single day of school, ever in his life. My father, Bill Russell's dad, he went to school until the 6th grade, and then they just stopped, and no black person in Louisiana could go to school past the 6th grade. It was out to the cotton fields. And so when Bill Russell's dad, who went to school till 6th grade and then worked in the cotton fields and became a manual laborer, as he was growing up and Bill was a young boy, Bill Russell's dad went and got every dime. He saved every penny, nickel, and dime that he could. And he went one day into the local lumber yard with this handkerchief full of coins. And he walked up to the owner who was behind the counter. And he put the money on the table and he said, I want to buy as much lumber as I can with what I have here. This is all the money I have. And the owner of the lumber store, he said, well, what do you want with that? You're just a black man. He used the N-word on him. He said, what do you want to buy lumber for? You're a worker. He said, I have to build a school in our neighborhood because until our children get an education, until they can learn how to dream and learn how to hope and learn how to build a life, we're never going anywhere. We're never going to move forward. We have no chance. at the hope and the opportunity and the purpose in life that defines all of us. And so the guy looked at him and said, "Get out of here. That will only buy you 1 2x4, and even if you had more, I'm not going to sell it to you, because we're not going to educate the black people here in Louisiana, because then all of what we have will be gone, and we won't have what we want and what we've worked so hard for." So Mr. Russell, Bill's dad, looked at the store owner, and he said, as he pushed the money right at the guy, and said, "Go ahead and keep the money." He turned around and walked out. The owner hustled back caught him at the door, said, "What do you mean keep the money? You're going to need this money to feed your family." He says, "No, I'm not." And the owner of the store said, "Well, why not? You're not going to sell me any wood that I can buy to build a school for our children? I'm going to just go home and get my gun and come back and kill you on the spot." The guy stepped back, looked at him, thought for a second, said, "Come here." Took his name, took his address, the owner of that school. He went and he built the school himself. Now, if you read Isabella Wilkerson's Pulitzer Prize winning book, The Warmth of Other Suns, the first black female to ever win a Pulitzer Prize, her book of The Warmth of Other Suns, of 8 to 10 million black Americans leaving the Deep South, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, coming to California, to Chicago, to Detroit, to Cleveland, to Philly, to Boston, to Washington, D.C., to New York, every day, tens of thousands of them on the train, because in the late 40s, they just accepted that this is not going to work here and we've got to move on. Bill Russell's family was part of that. Great migration. They made it to California. Bill Russell living in the housing projects. His mom died early. Living in the housing projects, was cut from his high school basketball team, was told he was no good, don't ever come back here. Somebody else came and put his arm on his shoulder and said, "You come with me. I'll help you. I believe in you." Bill Russell, in high school basketball, scored in double figures one time in his life. That day, there was somebody in that audience that watched him and said, "I want him to come play for our team." Bill Russell got one college basketball scholarship offer. That was to USF. Bill Russell went from that and changed the world of sports as much as anybody ever, with the possible exception of Muhammad Ali, who was my other childhood hero. Bill Russell then said, "My dad was a slave. My grandfather was a slave. My dad was able to build a school for the children. I got to go to college. And now my daughter Karen, who was just up here yelling in my ear how I have to wrap this up, she's a graduate of Harvard Law School, and she works in our White House for President Barack Obama." And then he walked off the stage. And for those of you who don't believe, for those of you who aren't willing to put your hand open and out the way someone has done for you, please, look yourself in the mirror. Are we doing everything? Are we willing to sacrifice? Are we willing to discipline ourselves so that others won't have to, so that our children can have their day? How can we run when we know? Thank you for my life, which is a life of pride, of loyalty, of gratitude. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your vision. Thank you for your willingness to lead us to the promised land. This is the place. But mostly, thank you for my life, because I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I'll be here all night long. Thanks very much, folks. Here we go.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this guy, Bill, I only have one thing to say, and I want to quote the great Hot Rod Hundley. They asked him once what his best game ever was playing, and he said it was the night that Will Chamberlain and I combined for 50 points. Hot Rod scored 2, and Will scored 48. That's how I feel tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Bill Walton.
I got to comment on that, right? Because was it Tom that introduced you?
It was.
So Tom, he said that you were too small to play basketball. Don't ever think that. If you ever think that you're too small to make a difference, you have never spent the night alone in bed with a mosquito. It's not how big you are, it's how big you play. And you, Lieutenant Governor, and you, Governor Gary, you guys are towering giants.
I did
and
lead
in
my
a
church
world
ball
of
team in
shriveling,
scoring.
cowering midgets, I applaud you, I salute you, and I thank you with a
Ladies and
life of
gentlemen, Bill
gratitude.
Walton.
I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Thanks very much. If you have any questions, you want a picture or an autograph, I'll be here all night.
Folks, before you go, Bill, Governor, can we get you up here? We actually have a gift for you. So we know how much, have a seat, folks. We know how much, Bill, you like tie-dyed shirts. And so we
I
had,
love tie-dye, and I love when the Grateful Dead come to Utah.
so we had a special Show You Care
Wow.
tie-dyed shirt made for you.
I
We had
care.
one
You
for-
care. We all care for Utah. For you care.
So we had one made for the governor
Oh, man.
and for Lieutenant Governor. I don't know, folks, should we put these on and take a picture?
This is like big enough for Shaq here. You don't have to put yours on, Governor. It's all right. But if you want to go to the next Grateful Dead show here in town, you come be my guest. You know where caring comes into all of this? And I'm so inspired by everything here in the name. I'm a huge believer in the use of the English language to get that message across. And John Wooden was an English teacher by profession who had young men under his athletic supervision in the afternoon. And when he made that pyramid of success with 15 words, it took him 14 years to put those 15 words in place and in order. And where did he put loyalty? He put loyalty right in the middle, in the bottom block, the foundation. Loyalty, the human attribute and personal characteristic that allows us to achieve extraordinary things because we care. I care. You care. We all care. For you care. Here we go.
Spencer. Quick shot.
Come on, Spencer. Don't hide. Don't be afraid. Now one like this, all with our arms up here. There we go.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks for your patience.
On your tables, we've got little suggestion cards provided to us by doTERRA. So when you're thinking about what you need to do, you've got those cards. Can I get all the board members to please come forward as well for some photos? Thank you, guys. Have a great night. We'll see you next year.